Hey guys, so my name is Alexis. I am part of the ISAR social media team for the ISAR conference of 2020. And today I have a very special treat for y'all. I have John Green with me today, and he's going to talk to us about his upcoming workshop at ISAR 2020 called Chiron, hopefully I pronounced that right, From Suffering to Meaning. So, John, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here, and thank you for asking me, Alexis.
Yay! So, before I even talk about the workshop interview with you, I just want to, get some background information for you because this is the first time I've ever talked to you, John. Like, who are you as an astrologer? What's some background information that you can tell some of our folks here?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I've been probably doing astrology for actually longer than I care to remember, probably over 25 years now. Um, I studied in London at the Centre for Psychological Astrology under Liz Green and qualified there, and then basically started teaching for the CPA in London. And then as time went on, I sort of realized that people, were on the lookout for online courses. And I started one of the very first online courses, which was a foundation course, for the CPA. And it's blossomed from there. In the last, about 5 years ago now, I started my own school, which is Mercury Internet School. We call it MISPA for short. And I set that up so that people could have a diploma level course that they could take online in psychological astrology. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. We have lots of webinars, we run courses. I teach there, so do lots of well-known astrologers like Lynn Bell and Darby Costello and Saffron Rossi, etc. Other people that will be at ISAR 2020 as well, I expect. And so that's basically what I'm doing. I also have a private practice in London. I see clients, I do coaching, etc., and that type of thing. So that's pretty much who I am. I should also mention I've written a book as well, which is on synastry, which is called "Do You Love Me?" Available from all
Oh,
good astrology bookshops and online. But yeah, the idea behind that was I wanted a synastry book that wasn't a cookbook, that wasn't just if this is planet is on that planet of theirs, this is what your relation will be like, but one that looked at the whole of both your charts and looked at, what may may happen during a relationship, what the problems might be, what the good stuff might be. And so, it's sort of more in-depth look at that.
hmm. Wow. So I learned a lot of different things about you. You have a nice book about synastry. You have your own school. That's amazing. Now, you do have an upcoming workshop for ESAR called Chiron, From Suffering to Meaning. Can you tell us a little bit about that workshop and what we could be expecting from that workshop?
Yeah, no, I'm really happy to be doing it, although whether happy is the right word when we're talking about suffering. Um, Now, it may sound, the title, Chiron from Suffering to Meaning, I hope has an uplifting end to it, even if there are parts of it that are tricky. Chiron is not let's call it a planetary body, as that there is still a lot up in the air as to what it actually is,
Mhm.
comet, minor planet, etc. But Chiron is a body I've been interested in for some time, and I think it has, particular relevance to when you're working with the psychological with your clients. And it's a part of our chart, that shows where we feel a wound. Now, that can be a very personal wound. It can be, even a physical wound, or it can be, a psychological wound. But there's also a part of it that's collective. Chiron takes about 50 years to go all the way around the chart. But it has a very elliptical orbit, so it's quicker in some signs, slower in others. We're at the slower end at the moment. Chiron's in Aries. And, the idea is that it works collectively as well as it moves through those signs and exposes different wounds in the whole of society, if you like. Um, and so, this is what I wanted to look at in the workshop. And I want to look at it both on a sort of personal and nature for the people at the workshop. And we'll also be looking at it perhaps a little bit in synastry, what happens when it transits, and also, how it works within that, the collective, and how we can see it working. So, I mean, that's the basic overview of it. Now, people have looked at Chiron in different ways. It was only discovered in 1977. So in astrological terms, it's a very, very recent extra bit of astrological kit. But, from my client work and from the student work I've done, I've noticed that particularly if you have it in aspect to a personal planet, it can, make quite an impact on your chart and have a real, thing on it. And often it comes out in those areas where we feel hurt, or we feel a lack, or we feel that life doesn't match up to how we would like it to be. And so I think, whenever we ponder the unfairness of life, how life doesn't give us what we want, that's, Chiron comes into play with those. I mean, there's a sort of quote I like to use, which, about skills and talents, which is that, a skill, is just a disability in disguise. That it's often things that we have problems with that push us forward, that make us want to achieve on things. And we're trying really hard in those areas because, we feel this lack, or we feel this woundedness. So that's part of what I want to explore. And as I said, I don't want it to make it totally doom and gloom. So playing around with the charts of people within the group, I don't want it to just be me lecturing at the workshop. I want people to get involved. I want, there to be a discussion, a conversation about how people experience it. And we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking, then how do we take that? How do we take areas where perhaps we do feel disadvantaged, we do feel wounded, and turn that into something that we can work with, turn that into a sense of meaning for us, or a sense of, exploration into the world. And so, alongside the sort of history of Chiron, the mythology of Chiron, the astrology of Chiron, I want to take it forward into, finding sort of, perhaps more life-affirming meaning of how can I work with this? What does it mean to me? And, where do I go from here? So that's an area I want to look at with people, and give it that sort of idea that it's not the end. It may be something that we have to cope with, but how can we work from there? So that's an important part of the workshops. And so, I hope that, people coming to it will get an idea of perhaps a better understanding of what Chiron is in the first place. Because as I said, not everybody uses it, and that's fine. I hope that they'll, be able to understand how it works both in their own chart and then in the charts of others, how it may come into play in their relationships with people, or, when they have a transit of it. And, therefore be able to work better with their clients. And then, as I said, to cap it all off, to have a better understanding of how, whether it's our personal suffering or our client suffering or difficult times, how do we work with that? As astrologers, how do we talk to them? How do we help them see, that there may be a way forward when perhaps they're feeling particularly, down or low at that point in their life? So I think that's an important part of, our work. If we work with people as in understanding themselves, or, learning how to navigate what life is about for them, I think it's a useful tool, if you like, for astrologers to have.
Thank you so much for explaining your workshop. You actually kind of answered like the last question I got for you, which was, please tell me why people should come to your workshop. And, you mentioned like suffering, and suffering is probably one of the most primal yet most devastating feelings that humanity has to face on a daily basis. And I feel like, just trying to mitigate that feeling in itself is a stronger reason enough to go. Like, astrology in a way helps us try to like, live our own lives, and like what better way to understand our own suffering with something like Chiron. So I think you kind of definitely answered like the urgency on why someone should come to your workshop. Now, I do have one more question. You sound like you've been studying astrology for a while. Maybe you've gone to some conferences. Why ISAR 2020? Why should people go to ISAR 20? What makes ISAR different?
I think it's the sense of community, actually. I think, at times, like, we've talked about people feeling sort of isolated or cut off from things. And at times like this, when many people are studying online or, privately and through books and stuff, often you're missing out on that being in a room with a whole bunch of astrologers and talking. And so for me, the biggest benefit of astrology conferences per se is to meet other people. Whilst of course, it's a great place to learn new techniques or to understand things. I think the biggest benefit for anyone is to realize that there are other people out there who talk the same language, who are looking at things, in the same way, and to feel that sense of, coming together with a group that you feel, part of. And so that's one of the main reasons, I think, spend time. I think a lot of people, particularly if it's their first conference, come and they get overwhelmed by how many wonderful lectures and workshops there are, and think they have to go to everything. So, and I hope it's not unethical to say, my advice to people going is, don't go to everything. Give yourself space. Leave gaps in your schedule where you can meet with people. You could have a coffee with them or a drink with them, where you can discuss, where you can perhaps have a chat with, some of the astrology teachers that you haven't met, personally yet, and sort of embrace that thing as a whole, as something to live. And I think that's the huge thing for me of conferences, is that sense of getting together with other astrologers.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Definitely.
said, of course, it's worth going to hear people, speak in person and teach you stuff that you don't know, or refresh your memories about things and that type of thing. And you asked why ISAR, and I think what I liked about ISAR is that it's not one of the biggest. It's a big conference, but it doesn't necessarily get as overwhelming. And often there is more of a chance to chat, to talk to people. It's a friendly conference. There's a nice sense of a community with it, and I think that's why perhaps particularly ISAR is a good one to choose if you can go there.
Mm. Okay, thank you. Honestly, I wished I heard your conference advice when I went to my first conference, because my first conference was UAC of 2018, 2017,
Yeah,
and I went to every lecture. So that's
absolutely.
honestly
And
great advice.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a common, I hesitate to call it a mistake, because obviously that's what you paid for, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But, it's brilliant to spend time with people, and also just to let your brain relax a bit, because you're constantly taking in, doesn't matter how mercurial you are, the more, you're
Oh,
constantly taking
yeah.
information. You need some time to process that and think about it. And I think, taking those gaps, really helps it. And I think I'm right in saying, I hope that everything's recorded. And so you'll have a chance to catch up on things that you missed this time, aren't they? Because they're making it available to people that sign up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, don't worry about missing them. You can always listen to the recording later, but, enjoy your sense of being there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get all the other
Definitely.
all the other lecturers complaining that people are not turning up to their things. It'll be my fault.
Oh, nah, that's not going to be on you. So, wow, John, you gave an amazing, response to all of my questions. Thank you for coming out, for, scheduling this, interview with me and just talking about your workshop. Your workshop sounds fascinating. I personally love Chiron, and as a traditional astrologer, I kind of want to implement it into my practice, just because Chiron and like amongst other things aren't included in that. But Chiron is always personally fascinating to me. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, you have any final words?
No, I thank you for the opportunity to tell everyone about this, and I hope to see, obviously, yourself, and also, everybody who's watching this. I hope to see them at ESAR later this year. Looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to it.
Okay, so I think that is a wrap. Thank you so much for talking with me. I will see you at ISAR.